Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up a remarkable file on the career of the Brazilian actor and director Wagner Moura.
Mhm.
And, you probably know him instantly as Pablo Escobar from Narcos. It was a performance that just captivated the globe.
He really was.
But if we only focus on that, on the entertainment value, we're missing something much deeper.
We are. We miss the complex moral questions
Mm.
and the cultural reflection that's really at the heart of all of his work.
So that's our mission today.
Exactly. We're looking at this analysis of his career that makes a really compelling argument that when acting is done with his level of dedication, it goes beyond just performance. It becomes a moral act.
A moral act, so he's not just playing a character.
Not at all. He treats every single story, every character, as a kind of complex ethical landscape that demands, a real commitment.
Okay, so let's unpack that for you. How does an actor's commitment, everything from the research to the physical changes, how does that actually shape how we, the audience, see these huge historical figures?
Well, it shapes everything. Every choice, no matter how small, carries weight. And it ends up contributing to these big cultural conversations about power, about complicity.
It's about whether we grant sympathy to a figure like Escobar, or do we demand accountability?
Right. Or do you just settle for a flat, one-dimensional villain? Moura's work, according to this analysis, it forces that tension. It turns the performance into a catalyst for our own self-examination.
Let's start with his background then, because it's unusual. He didn't come up through acting academies. He was a journalist first.
And that's a crucial foundation.
Yeah.
The rigor of being a reporter translates directly into what we could call investigative character work.
He's approaching a role like a breaking story.
There's a perfect way to put it. We're not just talking about memorizing lines or reading a quick biography. This is extreme dedication to primary research. For him, preparation means interviewing people who were actually connected to the subject. It means poring over archival footage, studying historical documents, and really immersing himself in the political context of that character.
So a journalist's job is to chase complexity, to avoid the easy answer.
Exactly. And that mindset is sort of the perfect defense mechanism against cliché.
It ensures the performance is rooted in evidence, not stereotypes.
It is. A journalist's critical awareness gives him the tools to navigate a character's moral ambiguity without, immediately judging them. He can approach their motivations with curiosity.
And skepticism.
And skepticism, yes. Demanding that complexity replaces any kind of easy simplification. That's why his work is seen as a form of ethical inquiry right from the get-go.
The acting literally starts in the archive, but then there's the performance itself. His theater experience seems to ground all of this meticulous work.
Oh, absolutely. Theater's where the ethical stakes are highest.
Because there's no place to hide.
No place to hide. You have a live audience just feet away watching every single nuance. You need total authenticity. There's no editor who can fix a lapse in conviction.
So how do those specific theater skills become, as the analysis puts it, moral tools?
Okay, take something as basic as rhythm and timing. He uses pacing as a moral tool.
Meaning
He knows exactly when to pause, to hold that tension right before a terrible choice is made.
Yeah.
Or when to intensify the pace to show panic or ruthlessness.
Or when to just let silence do the work.
Yes. A beat of silence can say so much more about a character's moral calculation than a line of dialogue ever could.
I could see that.
And then you have spatial awareness. Theater teaches you how your physical position on stage conveys power or vulnerability.
And on screen, a tiny shift in posture can communicate an entire ethical position.
You can. And theater also has this inherent sense of community responsibility.
Right, it's a shared experience.
Yes, it's an active conversation about societal values. It requires collaboration, humility. It's not about your ego. It's about serving the story's larger moral questions.
That discipline must have been absolutely essential for Pablo Escobar in Narcos.
It was. That role is the case study in navigating moral ambiguity.
The commitment was famous. The weight gain, learning a very specific Colombian accent.
And just hours and hours of studying footage. But beyond that, the performance itself was an ethical tightrope walk.
How so? Because if you make him too human, you risk softening the villainy.
That is the exact tension he exploits. His portrayal forces you, the viewer, to confront your own ethical footing.
Because he shifts so seamlessly.
So seamlessly. One moment, it's paternal warmth with his family. The next, it's just cold-blooded violence. You find yourself caught in that whiplash, feeling a flicker of sympathy and then immediate revulsion.
He also had to deal with the myth-making of Escobar, the person who built this Robin Hood narrative himself.
Yes, and Moura's job was to reveal the cold calculation behind that facade, to show the self-deception that allows for monstrous acts, ensuring that while you see the human being, the brutality is never, ever excused.
It's a real push and pull.
It is. Some critics even compared it to these grand operatic anti-heroes like Don Giovanni, where the charisma is totally inseparable from the cruelty.
It seduces the audience even as they see the betrayal unfold.
Precisely. And this all ties into this idea of the ethical stage, this concept of complicity in performance.
The dialogue between the actor's choices and our judgment.
Exactly. And the analysis points to 3 dimensions here. First is authenticity versus glorification.
How to be accurate without making him an icon.
You got it. Second is psychological honesty.
Avoiding the simple good guy, bad guy narrative.
Yes, committing to the contradictions. And the third, which is the hardest one for an actor to control, is audience accountability.
The idea that we are responsible for how we process what we see.
It is. Moura's work becomes a mirror reflecting our own values back at us. Those moments of sympathy for Escobar weren't accidents. They were intentional challenges to your moral compass.
That really transforms acting into a potent cultural statement, and it extends right into his political work, especially his directing.
Absolutely. You see it most clearly in the Marighella film. This was a conscious effort to reclaim the story of Carlos Marighella, a revolutionary figure who was strategically erased from official Brazilian history.
That sounds like it would be incredibly controversial.
It was. He was basically using cinema as a battleground for collective memory.
Challenging historical erasure.
Forcing a public confrontation with some very uncomfortable truths. It proved that these artistic choices have a real, immediate political impact. He's intentionally drawn to projects that explore systems of power.
So he's not just picking roles, he's picking systems to analyze.
And to challenge. And this really brings us to his inspirations, the European auteurs who never separated their art from ethical responsibility.
Like Costa Gavras.
The master of the political thriller, exactly. Gavras inspires Moura's willingness to dissect power structures, to make the audience feel like complicit witnesses to injustice, not just passive viewers.
Then you have someone like Pedro Almodovar, which feels like a completely different energy.
It is. But Almodovar informs the fearless character work, the emotional depth. He teaches Moura how to find dignity in marginalized or morally compromised lives.
So vulnerability becomes a form of courage.
An ethical courage, yes. And finally, you have Krzysztof Kieślowski.
That's the philosophical weight.
That's it. Kieślowski's Decalogue series showed that real moral questions emerge from very specific, very human stories, not from abstract arguments.
So you've got this incredible synthesis, Latin American urgency, European contemplation.
All rooted in Brazilian cultural specificity. It's the perfect summary. Wagner Moura shows how acting ethics and cultural responsibility can converge. He uses the screen as a mirror for society.
To challenge its own beliefs.
To examine its relationship with the stories it consumes.
Which brings us back to the profound questions his work raises for all of us, whether you're an artist or just engaging with art. It demands that you ask yourself, which stories are truly worth telling? Who has the authority to tell them responsibly? And maybe the most difficult question of all, what obligations do we have to the stories we consume and create to make sure we honor the full weight of their moral complexity? That's something to think about until our next deep dive.